Sifter for the ear.
News, interviews, reviews, cinema, TV, streaming. Action!
Hi y'all, this is Jerry Williams, aka TV Jerry. Today's a double feature about two recent documentaries on our state's black heritage.
They were expecting phone calls from the different TV stations. We got some awful phone calls calling the church and what y'all N-word doing up there today. And so I took a little break, just, walking around the church. I went downstairs and looked out the front door. And there's a building across on the next street. And there were people on the roof of those buildings with guns pointed at the church. You don't know what they're going to do.
This city has gone through a tremendous upheaval. Danville was a tough spot during civil rights.
Over the years, that Dr. King had said, if Birmingham had not taken its course in the summer of '63, then Danville would have been one of the major civil rights spots.
That's an excerpt from Danville 1963, Legacy of a Movement, a documentary full of first-hand accounts about the peaceful civil rights protest in Danville, Virginia on June 10, 1963. It was met with shocking violence by the local police department and became known as Bloody Monday. It was an event that would shape civil rights history. There'll be a free screening at the Library of Virginia on Thursday, June 6th from 5:30 to 8:30 with a panel discussion featuring some of the protest participants. I'll have a link to the free tickets on the website for this show at tvjerry.com. Today I'll be talking with producer Jonathan Parker about making the doc. But first, here's an excerpt from the second documentary.
And that's one of the things that I like about art, that you paint what you see. You paint what you feel. You paint it today and you look back at it tomorrow and you say, wait a minute, this is not what I want. But you can change it.
If you look in the dictionary under Southern Gentleman, Doug Wilder's picture would be there. When he was talking to you, he wasn't looking to who he's going to talk to next. He was talking to you, and you were the most important person at that time.
He was fearless. Fearless in terms of court. He understood the law, but he understood what was at stake.
He is a very caring and loving and gentle person, but I would never, ever come up short from his expectations.
That's an excerpt from the trailer for Beyond Wilder Dreams, about L. Douglas Wilder, who was the first black governor in the country. There's already one documentary about his political career, but this one puts the emphasis on his personal experiences. Did you know that he's an accomplished painter? That's one of the things we discuss with writer-director Brian Bullock and DP Ryan Pace. But first,
Sifter Review of the Week.
Mother of the Bride on Netflix. When a line of love dialogue includes, "You're the sun, the moon, and the stars," you know you're in for a trite mess. Brooke Shields has the title role. She attends her daughter's destination wedding, another rom-com staple, only to find that the groom's dad is her former beau, Benjamin Bratt. Besides being painfully predictable, I even said some of the lines as they were being uttered, the dialogue is miserably mundane. Shields has never impressed me as an actor, and this role won't change that. Her wooden delivery and embarrassing attempts at physical humor fall flat. Bratt, on the other hand, is effortlessly sexy and continually charming. In this genre, there's usually a wacky character to add some comic fun, even though there were opportunities with the sex-obsessed sister, Rachel Harris, and the best friend gay couple, Michael McDonald and Wilson Cruz. They're simply dull. The exotic location in Thailand has been seen before and to better advantage. Other than Bratt coming out of the shower, there's nothing about this film to recommend it. I gave Mother of the Bride half a star. Jonathan Parker, welcome to Sifter for the Year. Where did the idea for this project come?
I first learned about the movement and Bloody Monday about 10 years ago. I was working as a newspaper reporter, and I covered the 50th anniversary of Bloody Monday. And I I really just couldn't believe what had gone on in Danville.
It's a pretty amazing story.
Yeah, I started digging into it. At the time I was working as a writer, and fast forward 10 years later, we've got a production company. And in 2020, my wife and I stumbled upon a Washington Post article that was sort of a racial reckoning in the South after George Floyd's murder. And they came to Danville and they did this story on Danville's racial themes and what had gone on. And I read an interview in there that was with a young student from George Washington who also had never heard about it. And I thought, well, the history is really being lost both in the white and the Black communities. And my wife and I just decided to take a run at it, and we pulled together resources and produced it and got it shot. And it's just been an incredible story to tell.
You say your wife and you have a production company. What do y'all do otherwise?
Yeah, so my wife and I run a commercial production company, and we do video and photography work for companies and for localities, and we do tourism work and economic development work and healthcare and nonprofit stuff. I feel like it's a blend of the two loves that I have, which are film and journalism.
And speaking of journalism, that incredible footage, so much footage from WDBJ in Roanoke, most TV stations don't keep their archives. Why did they keep it, and how did you luck into finding all that?
Yeah, so we stumbled upon a documentary that they had done in the last, I don't know, 10 years. I say documentary, it's like a 20-minute special. And they had all this archival footage, and we talked to them, and we paid a fee for the use of the footage. It's got some sound that goes along with it, where is very much the description of what the people that we interviewed talk about, with the marches and the singing and the movement and all this together. And it's incredible footage that really kind of helps tell the story.
Right. You were very lucky on that, I guarantee you.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Almost all of the interviews were done at the High Street Baptist Church. Obviously, it makes it easier because you got everybody in one place, but why was that location chosen?
High Street was really sort of the headquarters for the civil rights movement. I mean, the civil rights movement really, at least in Danville and in other parts of the country, from what we have learned, was really spearheaded out of the Black church. High Street was really the forerunner in Danville. And so it remains to this day. The building is there. It's beautiful. It's a pretty sacred place to be in, to think about the history of what's happening. But the lectern is there where King spoke.
Now, being a film geek, I have to ask you, there's one scene where you have the slow motion of a camera being smashed. Mm-hmm. Who gave up a camera for that?
Yeah, so I have a small office in Alta Vista, Virginia, and my landlord is a traditional photographer. And I went in, I said, look, I need a 60s era camera that you never want to see again. And he let us take it. And so we went in and smashed it. It was
one take.
Yeah, you get one shot at it. That's actually me. So I'm dressed as the police chief in that. I smashed the guy. Well, I wanted it to be on me if we didn't get it right. That's a powerful moment in the film because it really is sort of the linchpin of white power has had enough of this, and we are going to take no prisoners now.
Surprise guest drop in.
Hello.
Carice Luck-Bremer, welcome to Sifter for the Year.
Footnote.
Carice Luck-Bremer is the Community Initiatives Program Associate for Virginia Humanities and a Danville resident. First of all, tell us, what did you bring to this movie? Besides being in it, of course.
I kind of provided the historical context, kind of the narrator, so to speak.
It's being shown here at the Library of Virginia. Mm-hmm. Do you know, why was this film chosen to be shown?
Just recently, the Library of Virginia, they released audio from the protesters in 1963. And I work at Virginia Humanities, and the Library of Virginia, they're one of my best partners. With the film, I, reached out to them and asked them would they like to partner on it. And I, just thought it was a good way to get it out to an even broader audience.
So what's going to be happening at the event at the library?
Everything starts at 5:30, but you can get there earlier in the day and you can see all of the archives, the documentation as it relates to Danville. After the film and the panel, there's going to be a small reception where you'll be able to talk with the panelists, get personal stories from the protesters in 63.
Right. And you mentioned panel. Who's going to be on that panel besides you?
We have people who actually protested in 63 that's going to be on the panel. One of them, namely Dorothy Moore Batson, whose picture that's out there for being dragged by the police.
Yeah, that photo is also being used on the graphic on my webpage.
Also, we have those who didn't appear in the film, like Connie Carter. But those protesters who were out there in 63 as young teenagers at the time, they'll be on the panel to round it out.
So, Jonathan, then how did Carice help put this together for you?
Yeah, so I think the project doesn't happen without Carice. It was really, really important for us to have someone that knew the community. Carice is very much the keeper of Danville stories, particularly among the Black community. Having her come alongside of us allowed us to identify the right people to talk to. Trust was already built in because people trust Carice. That carried a lot of weight in the community. And so it allowed us to come in and to get the project streamlined in a way that got it done. And I think got it done well and effectively.
Right, right. So, Carice, anything you want to say to Jonathan before you head back to your busy day?
Oh, yes. Actually, it's going to be a fun day headed to the Reynolds homestead to do a lecture on local civil rights today. But yes, Jonathan has been, amazing. I've always wanted to, get the story told in a broader way. Just to have somebody just reach out and want to film it. And it was just so good to do it while we still had people that were living where they could, tell their own stories, like Jonathan said.
Right.
And, he says that the movement can't take place without me. There's absolutely no way that this happens without Jonathan. So Jonathan is like my partner in crime now. And we're also exploring other documentary stories as well. So
just want to mention to both of you that one of the things that was so appealing about this documentary is, of course, their harrowing descriptions of the Bloody Monday. And that's really intense. But by the end, you have 3 members who went to the March on Washington. They were at the front of the line. And John Lewis even mentioned Danville in his speech. So that's kind of a nice way to finish it on a positive note.
Mm-hmm.
We took Carolyn and John and Dorothy by train out to D.C. because we felt like it was important to reflect on what they've done and what they've accomplished. And that was an incredible experience itself, just being around the National Mall. And it's kind of crazy, and there's people everywhere. When we were doing that, people would come up to us and go, "What are you doing?" And I said, well, they were here when King gave his speech 60 years ago, and people just get really quiet and just listen to them. And it was in that moment that I really realized there's a broad appeal to hearing this story. This is bigger than Danville.
Footnote.
At this point, we lost our connection with Carice, so I didn't get a chance to thank her. So thank you, Carice. Obviously, there's going to be the showing here at the Virginia Library. What are the other plans for distribution?
Yeah, so it's available now on Amazon and Apple and pretty much anywhere where you would rent or buy a film.
Oh, great. And one last question I always like to ask people is, when you're not working on promoting this documentary, what are you watching?
Let's see. My last theater experience was going to see Dune 2.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's a while back.
Yeah, I've got 3 small children, so getting out to the theater is not something that happens really, really often for me.
I guess you watch a lot of Disney at your house then.
Yeah, a lot of Bluey is going on in my house.
I was going to say Bluey, yeah.
A lot of Bluey. I'm working on a couple of other documentaries too that we're in pre-production on. And so I'm not doing a ton of watching, but I'm doing a lot of reading.
Well, I want to thank you again. The film is powerful, and if people can't see it, we'll have a link to it on the website as well. And thanks again.
Thank you for having me.
That was producer Jonathan Parker talking about making the documentary Danville 1963, Legacy of a Movement. A documentary full of first-hand accounts about the peaceful civil rights protest in Danville in 1963 that was met with shocking violence by the local police department. There'll be a free screening at the Library of Virginia on Thursday, June 6th from 5:30 to 8:30 with a panel discussion featuring protest participants. This event is free and open to the public, but registration is required, so I'll include a link on the webpage for this show at tvjerry.com. Now, let's talk with writer-director Brian Bullock and DP Ryan Pace about Beyond Wilder Dreams. Okay, this is kind of an interesting combination. We have Brian and Ryan here to join me today. Welcome to Sifter, guys.
Hey, Jerry, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jerry.
Before we get into Beyond Wilder Dreams, who are you guys? What do y'all do, and how did you get into this business?
I actually cut my teeth in the business as a talent agent and casting director years ago in the Maryland area. But as I worked with a lot of these producers, great producers and directors, I always said, you know what? I think I have a voice too. I think I would love to tell some stories. So I kind of transitioned over into went to American University, got my master's in producing for film and television, and
Wow,
then
they have a master's in producing, huh?
yes.
Not directing or shooting. That's interesting. I never knew there were ones out for
Yeah.
the producer itself. That's great.
So I did that casting for about 11 years, and then here we are now, I'm producing and with a interest in mostly documentary work.
And Ryan, you're a Richmonder.
I am. Yes, I'm a Richmond native. When I was younger, I wanted to be the next Steven Spielberg, and
Yeah,
was
didn't
fortunate.
we all?
I know. No, it's been a good career so far. The first job I got right out of high school was working for VPM. They weren't VPM at that point, but it was Channel 2357
Right.
as a studio camera operator. I'm now a cinematographer and do a lot of television doc work and some corporate work.
Let's talk about L. Douglas Wilder here. Now, I have to say, first of all, this was an interesting little thing that he and I have in common.
Yeah.
You'll never guess, so I'm going to tell you. The only time we ever got D's in school were in deportment, which he says up front, because it was when Jerry can't sit down, Jerry can't stand still, Gary can't stop talking. So I felt his pain on that one. I knew exactly what he was like. So I was surprised to find out that he was also painting. Was that something y'all chose up front to use as part of the documentary? Because it kind of formed a theme in a way, or did that just happen as you were shooting it?
Well, that's one of the first things that Brian told me. He said, he's a painter.
I didn't know it.
Not many people know that.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. Are they for sale?
Yeah, I don't think so. The interesting thing about it is that he loves to talk about art, but he's very kind of low key about it. He's like, I'm just, but they're quite good. They are quite good.
Yeah,
And everybody
yeah.
says the same thing.
Obviously, there's another documentary that's already been done called Wilder and American First, which is on PBS. So why did you say, oh, let's do another one? Or whose idea was it to do another one, and then why?
I can't remember what the project was, but we were filming with him, and he was approaching 90 at that point. And I'm like, there hasn't been a documentary about him in a little while. And there are key points in his life just about who he is under the surface that haven't, I think, been fully explored. There's probably 3 years. We just, every few months, it'd be like, hey, and then the opportunity came to fruition with VCU.
The producers, Pam Cox and Amita Cartwright, they wanted to do something different as well. I think more importantly, Ryan and I wanted to do it, but the governor and his team also wanted to do it.
How does this sit with VCU after the recent comments that Governor Wilder has made about Dr. Rao and VCU? Silence, I'm here.
I don't
Awkward.
know.
Footnote.
According to Richmond BizSense, Wilder called for a state investigation and the firing of VCU President Michael Rao as a result of reports that the VCU health system paid $73 million to exit a planned Richmond development project.
The governor has always spoken his mind, I feel like, and that's one of his, honestly, one of the great traits about him. He's never followed a party line perfectly. We talk about that in the documentary.
Right.
And if he thinks something, he's going to say it. And actually, one of the people that we interviewed in the documentary, who's known him since high school, made that very point. She said, if he thinks something, he's going to say it. And
There you go.
You can like it or not. So I'll leave it at that.
You didn't hear any direct pushback or anything from VCU saying, oh, no, we're not going to do this now.
Exact opposite. Yeah, they really pushed forward with this. And as Ryan said, the governor's always going to speak his mind. And I think, quite frankly, they appreciate that.
Yeah.
Who did the voiceover?
That would be me.
Oh, is that you? Okay, I didn't know. Well, I hadn't talked to you except on the phone, so I didn't know that. So why did you decide to do it? Is that you got a background as an actor, obviously, or was there a budget issue? Why did you decide?
That's a great question. And it's a little bit of both. So, Jerry, you're going into the production of this.
Of course.
And we did not have a lot of time to get this done, right? If we could have gotten,
Morgan Freeman or one of those big boys. Yeah, right.
We would have loved it. But unfortunately, you got Brian Bullock. So,
well, you sounded good. I just didn't know who that voice was. I thought it was an interesting choice. So there are photos from the collection for Virginia Union in there, and there's some orange blocks over some of them as opposed to a blur or a black box. Why an orange box?
I believe you're referring to the photos that were from Korea, and that was not a creative choice. That was what we got. So if you look in the film, you'll see there's a little lower third that the editor put in stating that they were taken directly from the archives because we could not get those orange or yellow boxes out of the photos. That's how they actually appear in the archives.
Oh, wow.
I think for me and for Ryan, I thought it was kind of cool. It was like, this is literally the photo. And so it didn't bother me that much, but that was a great catch.
Yeah, as you mentioned earlier, it is an interesting story because it does talk about when he was 13 and he said integration was another world when he went to New York City and saw that, and being in the Army. I had no idea some of these things. So, what are some of those stories that were surprises to you about him and his past, especially his early years before he got all political?
He talks about he'd go to the shoeshine parlor when he was
Right.
young and debate people that were adults, and he was a child at that time.
Yeah.
And he would hold his own. They said he was wrong. He'd go get the dictionary or the encyclopedia and be like, no, I'm right.
Right.
And that just speaks to the person that he is. When he knows something isn't right or he's correct on something, he's going to fight for it. Then in Korea, hearing him retell stories of his buddy Jim Cunningham, who literally saved his life.
Right.
And Jim lost his life. And then there were other situations like that where people right around him died and he didn't. And it's just,
Wow.
it's incredible.
What was the biggest challenge in putting this together, other than, Brian, you mentioned time? How long did you have to put it together? He's smiling.
I think it was about 2 months.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The very beginning. Brian actually talked me off of a ledge a little bit when he said, this is when we've got to deliver. I said, we cannot do that, Brian. There's no
Wow.
way. And he said, no, we can do it. We've got a good team. And Brian was right. So
Yeah, shoot and edit time was probably even less.
Wow.
We really came together and did it. So Ryan and I are really proud of this team and what we're able to do in that amount of time.
So you mentioned that y'all work as a team. You are working as a team on a regular project for VPM. Is that correct?
That's correct. We have a show. It's called actually Hidden History with Brian Bullock. And we travel around Virginia and uncover and highlight places that people may pass every day and just shine a light on these kind of hidden history nuggets.
And I will put a link to that on the webpage for this show, too, so people can check it out if they'd like to do that. I asked you what was the big challenge. What was the biggest surprise in putting this together?
I'm not sure if it's a surprise, but it was really revealing when the governor talked about, and Jerry, you mentioned this, the integration and what it was like from him growing up in Churchill and riding around Churchill. That was probably one of my favorite moments of making the film, was riding around in Churchill with the governor and just to watch him and listen to him talk about what it was like back in those days. But for me, as an African-American man, to hear him talk about that, it just, I wouldn't use the word surprise, but it kind of just, it just kind of hit me a little bit like, wow. And it should hit everybody, whether you're African-American or not.
Right,
right. It really brought home, and then to where he is now, it's pretty incredible.
Now, when and where can it actually be screened by the public?
We are working with VCU to secure the distribution. And I'll just say, I don't want to mention names, or platforms just yet, but what I can say is that we are looking for national distribution or major distribution.
So obviously, Governor Wilder was involved. How did you approach him, and how was his response when you said, hey, we're going to make a movie about you again?
Yeah, the governor was amazing, and he was unbelievably open. We had complete access. As you mentioned earlier, we had access to his home. We had access to VCU. We have literally hours and hours of interview footage. And he was just an amazing sport and was open. And we just so appreciate him.
We were at his house filming the interview that we did at his place. So we were having lunch, and I was kind of in work mode, and I'm standing and chatting with the governor. It's a small crew. There's about 6 of us in the room. And he just kept looking at me, Ryan, sit down, relax. That's just the spirit that he has. He's an incredible person. And I really enjoyed getting to know him better through this and hearing his story in greater detail.
Great. And he also challenged all of us to do something.
Yeah.
Right.
And that I walked away every day like, I got to do better.
Well, you've done well on this, and congratulations on it. We'll be excited to see where it goes next. Now, one question I always like to ask everybody, when you're not working on this or something else, what are you watching?
I've been binging actually documentaries lately. I haven't, over the last few years, I've really been watching a lot of narrative, and I don't know if it's the Wilder documentary or what. I have watched at least 10 documentaries in the last few weeks. There was one on Amazon, I believe, called Race to Alaska. They have a boat race from Washington State to Alaska up the Canadian coast. Some of them do it in a few days, and some of them it takes them a few weeks. Human stories like that are really, really interest me.
Brian, how about you?
And Ryan knows this about me. I'm a true crime junkie.
Oh, Lord, you got plenty to watch then.
Plenty to watch, and I'm a Twilight Zone junkie. As a matter of fact, Ryan bought me Twilight Zone socks for Christmas.
Great.
Anytime there's a marathon, I watch it. So that's how I fill my time.
All right, guys, I want to thank you, Brian and Ryan, for being here today, and we will keep people posted on when the documentary Beyond Wilder Dreams is available. Thank you both.
Thank you, Jerry.
Appreciate it.
That was writer-director Brian Bullock and DP Ryan Pace talking about the new documentary Beyond Wilder Dreams that looks at the personal experiences of former Governor L. Douglas Wilder. As you heard, plans for distribution are still in the works, but I'll have a link to the trailer on the website.
Coming soon. In theaters.
Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. This latest sequel from George Miller presents the origin story of Furiosa before she encountered Mad Max. Taking Charlize Theron's place is Anna Taylor-Joy, with Chris Hemsworth as the bad guy. The Garfield movie, not to be confused with Garfield the movie. This new animated version stars Chris Pratt, Samuel L. Jackson, and Hannah Waddingham. Evil does not exist. From the director of Drive My Car comes this Japanese import about a father and daughter who live in a small village where a glamping site is moving in nearby. Babes. Ilana Glazer plays a woman who finds herself pregnant from a one-night stand and leans on her best friend, mother of two, played by Michelle Buteau, to help her through it. Directed by Pamela Adlon. Sight, based on a true story about a man who grew up during China's Cultural Revolution, moved to America where he became an eye surgeon and helped a blind orphan girl regain her sight. Blue Angels. I just announced this doc on the famed Flying Soldiers last week on streaming, but it can now be experienced on the big screen.
TV and streaming.
Atlas on Netflix. This takes place in yet another bleak future where an AI soldier has determined the only way to end war is to end humanity. Starring Jennifer Lopez, Simu Liu, and Sterling K. Brown. Sentinel on Hulu. Years after an alien invasion, 3 heroes decide to time travel to save survivors, but they don't know that the Sentinel is waiting for them. The Beach Boys on Disney, a celebration of the legendary band. Eric on Netflix. Benedict Cumberbatch plays a grief-stricken father whose son goes missing. He finds solace through his friendship with Eric, the monster that lives under Edgar's bed. Movie Pass, Movie Crash on Max, a documentary about the company that founded Movie Pass and the outside investors who took it over, left it bankrupt, and under investigation. Geek Girl on Netflix. An awkward neurodivergent teenager's life is turned upside down when she's spotted to be a model and embarks on a life-affirming journey of self-discovery as she balances high school and high fashion. Next week, we'll hear from Paul Surwitz, who worked for years at neighborhood cinemas in Richmond before heading to LA to work as a film booker, film buyer, and now a distributor on a new film coming soon. Thanks for listening. This is Jerry Williams. See you next week.
For more Sister, including literally thousands of reviews,
visit tvjerry.com.
That's a wrap.